All right, here we are. We've made it to 20 episodes. To hell with the podcast. I am Tim. As always, Daryl is flying the plane with me. And good morning to you, Daryl.
Morning, man. It's Saturday. I got kicked out of bed a little early this morning because I knew today was podcast day. So let's
Here we
let-
are.
let's freaking go. We got football later on today. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on today.
Yeah, a lot of happenings today. And then also too, first of all, before we get going on the episode, I do for our listeners who wait for this to drop on Tuesday. Sorry that we were a day late this week. I was traveling and I was working on the some of the behind the scenes stuff on Monday night, which is when I normally do it. I get it all scheduled to drop so it's ready first thing Tuesday morning. Internet in my hotel room absolutely sucked. Was click. Okay. So it took me a while to get it done when I was in the hotel room. So, lesson learned, if I'm traveling, do it before I travel because you never know what you're going to get in a hotel room.
I didn't realize that was what the scenario was.
Yeah. It
Appreciate
was,
that.
yeah, I was sitting there and even just because I got to download it, I got to export it just so it could be hosted to, so we can host it to the different platforms that we're on. And typically on a video recording, it takes about 10 minutes, depending on the length of time that we do, which isn't bad when I'm working from home. 10 minutes, I can get up, I can go move around and do things. Well, 10 minutes became 30 minutes, became an hour, became 2 hours. And I'm like, good gosh, what's going on tonight? So it
That's
took me a little bit, it took me a little longer to get it done than I had anticipated to get it done. So apologize for getting it out late. But I don't know about for us today, though, episode 20. If you're following us pretty closely, every 5 episodes, our podcast, we talk and devote everything to Striper. But every 5 episodes, we go to the other projects that the band does. And today, we are going to be focusing on the second Sweet Lynch album, Unified, that dropped in 2017. And we've got our thoughts on this album, some comical thoughts, I think, based upon a conversation that Daryl and I had earlier this week. But before we get started on that, before we go to the news desk, because we got some things to talk about this week for the news desk, Daryl, I know you wanted to talk about something with your favorite band. That's not Striper.
yes. We talk about Striper every week, and I freaking love it. But my favorite band is Alter Bridge, and if you guys don't know, it's just Creed with a different singer, and I don't mean to like bring that down the bar any because Miles Kennedy is an insane vocalist, but they have all the same musicians, but they dropped a full album last week, and it's probably the heaviest one that I think I've heard from them lyrically and melodically. Miles has some opinions about some things,
Yeah, we talked
but
about that earlier this week on my drive home from Alabama.
yeah, no, when he gets on a tangent, dude, he's not a guy to like stand back from anything, which is part of the reason I respect him. We don't stand eye to eye on all the opinions, but it's cool. But yeah, it's a self-titled record. I've listened to it several times this week, and I think it's phenomenal. If you like the heavier stuff, and there's a couple little ballads in there, but um, it's a really solid record, and I was ready to get some new Alter Bridge material in my life. So go listen to it. Self-titled Alter Bridge. It's all out there. So anyway,
How long has it been since they dropped something?
they dropped something during COVID, and then everything just kind of shut down. They couldn't tour on it or anything like that.
So it's been 5 or 6 years then since they.
It's it's been a minute. I think it's been probably 4 years.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean this is one of their better records in their catalog, in my opinion. And I'm a really big fan. So yeah, if Mark Tremont. It's the dudes from Creed with a different singer. I mean, y'all will probably get the vibe. But yeah, the Alter Bridge self-titled record's been in my head this week, so I recommend it highly.
Yeah, it's I told you I was gonna listen to it, but after I got home, I did not find time to listen to it because when you travel for work and then you get home, it's like you're doing a whole week's of work within 2 days because you missed time out of the office because you were traveling for work. So it was
Yeah,
a
totally.
Thursday and Friday, man. They were just, gosh, they were nutty days. It's like Friday is usually Friday's usually a laid back. I shouldn't say a laid back day, but we don't have as much meetings in the afternoon. Well, yesterday I was on the phone from 8:30 to just after 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was just one of those days, but it was fun. We had our we had our monthly sales meeting yesterday, and my boss, he's a great guy. I'm fortunate to be blessed to work who I work for personnel wise and company wise as well. But he and I get along great. He's a couple of years older than me, but he opened up the sales meeting yesterday and he does this occasionally, but he goes, okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, how are you feeling about work and life? And what was the first unsupervised concert you went to? So we had an hour meeting. It took us 30 minutes to get through everybody talking about how they were doing and what concert because everybody started giving some commentary on their first concerts and people then would give feedback on that. So it was quite interesting to hear everybody and then
So
you hear somebody
what was your
then you
answer?
hear mine.
Yeah.
You don't want to know my first
I know it's
unsupervised.
I'm sure it's Brian
Yes.
Adams or something like that. I mean,
Yeah, it was my first unsupervised concert
you
was
wanna know what
Brian
my first
Adams.
one was?
Was it? No, it wasn't Prince because you went with your mom.
Nope. I went with my mom to the Prince concert. My first one was Megadeth.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, what was funny was the first Brian Adams concert I went to, and it was funny because the people in Atlanta got the reference, but it was ninth row at the Omni. And the Omni is where the Hawks used to play, and now it's imploded, and now they play at the State Farm Arena, etc. But I went to that concert, and the day I was supposed to go, person I was dating at the time, she was supposed to go with me. She ended up not being able to go. So then an old friend from high school walked into where I was working, and I looked at him and I said, "You still like Adams?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I got an extra ticket tonight." And he goes, "Okay." So he and I, after work, hopped in the car and drove down to the Omni and saw that. But my first concert ever was seeing Striper, but that was supervised in a sense because we were down in Florida. My brother was with me. My mom didn't go, but she was outside because after the concert, we went home. So I felt like even though my mom wasn't in the building, I still felt like I was supervised because I had her right outside the building and had her, and my brother, who was 4 years older than me, he was there. And then my buddy Mark was with us. And
I was gonna say it
so
had to be
that was,
Mark with you.
yeah. So that was my first concert, 87, Hell with the Devil and Daytona Beach. It was actually at Daytona Beach where I saw him
Man,
at the
that's
Ocean
crazy.
Center. Yeah,
Alright, well, mine's still and always gonna be Prince on the Purple Rain tour in Atlanta.
yeah. And so, but then what was funny was I started thinking about because that was 92 when I started really getting into going to concerts because I could go myself and not be supervised. Well, that summer, I started thinking about that because I went to Brian Adams and then I went to Six Flags and saw, and you'll roll your eyes at this one, but I went to Six Flags and I saw Richard Marx. And then later on in the summer, I went to Lollapalooza and saw Red Hot Chili Peppers, Pearl Jam, and all of that. So my diverse taste in
Wait,
music.
wait, hold on, back up.
Yeah.
Was the Lollapalooza here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we were at the same spot at the same time. I don't know if we've talked about this before.
No, I don't think we have. I remember though, I remember when the Chili Peppers played though,
Yeah, I
because
was
that
there.
was because after they did Under the Bridge, half the people left. It was like, okay, we heard the song we liked, we're gone.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was a wild day for me. I think I lost a shoe that day.
I just remember because that's when I had just started my banking career. And I remember I walked by and there was this guy, he was sitting there on the floor. He was sitting there on the ground and he was stoned out of his mind. And he was just like, "Hey man, you're my banker. Yeah, that's cool."
No way, really?
Yeah, yeah,
My goodness, that's
yeah. And he
crazy.
just completely stoned out of his mind. And
That's
then
funny
I
that he
remember
could
I
recognize your face.
Yeah, I don't remember him. I don't remember his name, but I remember what he looked like. He was a younger guy. He wasn't like a 40 or 50-year-old guy. He had blonde, kind of longish hair, the style that it was in 92. Yeah, I went with some you remember I was living with those guys. I went with a couple of them.
Yeah, yes, I do.
Yeah, a
Anyway,
couple of them. Not the one that gave you a hard time that one time, which was ridiculous. That was another story for another day.
whatever.
Yeah. But so I went with a couple of them and a couple of their friends, and yeah, I mean, spent the day there. So that was that.
It's a whole day, and for sure. I mean, these things were really fun when they used to tour around, and now they're stuck in Chicago. But hey, those are some of the best days that because my wife and I have been to two of those, and yeah, it's just I don't know. It's those days when you're younger and can do more stuff
Yeah.
because early 20s.
You could just go, hey, I can go do this and have, hey, but you grow up, you mature, you have a family. But that doesn't mean
Well,
life has to stop being fun.
I don't think it has to stop being fun. I
No,
try to find new ways to make it fun
I know. It's
at the chagrin of certain people around me sometimes. But hey,
you and I are in the same boat sometimes. I've learned, and I'm just going to tell this little story and we'll get on with the show. My wife, she's an introvert. I am more of I love to be around people. I love to be the extrovert of the family. But if you met my wife, you would never know that she's an introvert, but she can
she
go
thinks
out.
she is.
She can be talkative. But when she's done, she's done. She wants to curl up, read a book, sit by the fire. And I think the challenge that we both have is that I basically work from home most of the time. So on Friday nights, Saturdays, Sundays, I'm ready to go do stuff. During the week, she's out and about doing stuff all week. So come the weekend, she's ready to chill. And so it's always funny because I just buy stuff for us to do. And then I go, "Oh, by the way, I bought this." And she starts to go, "I don't want to go." And then when it comes, and then we go, and then we get done, she goes, "I'm so glad we went. That was so
Yeah, it's
much
time.
fun."
Yeah, it's time to go. I do that sometimes as well. But yeah, I think my wife and I do that equally. It's like, oh, we're gonna go do this thing. It's like this is ridiculous. I'm going to get an MRI tomorrow, and it's at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's in Decatur. And I'm like, you know what? After the MRI, we should go get a bite somewhere. And she's like, you know what? That sounds perfect. Which is just how you have to move around when you're in your 50s.
I know, and you just you learn we have things that we love to do together. Then we have things that I love to do that she doesn't normally like to go do. Like in a couple of weeks, we're going to Cabo, and so we're together going to be hanging out, and we're going to go on this because this is pretty cool because this time of year is peak whale sighting season. So
Cool.
we picked an excursion with some other couples that we're going to go on this whale sighting tour. But my wife also told me, she goes, "If you're going to go to Cabo Wabo this time," she goes, "I'm out."
To the actual club?
Yeah.
Oh,
So she's
okay.
like, "I'm out." And I'm like,
I could see that with your wife, but, yeah, Rebecca would be like, "Alright, let's." Because last time we went to Cabo Wabo it was so fun.
yeah, I mean, it was fun, but it was just like
It's a
what ended
lot.
up happening. Yeah, it is. And me, I just got lost in the moment of all the 80s music playing and me and he was the VP of like our whole, not our database, but VP of our whole, not product, but development team. Sorry, VP of development team. That's what I was looking for. And he and I, for like 3 hours, stood there and air guitared with each other, going all over the place. And
That's
then,
awesome.
and then apparently I had to go settle up the tab, and I was at the bar settling up my tab, and then they couldn't find me. And were in Mexico. They're like, "Oh my gosh, this isn't like Tim. Where's Tim at?" And I was like, "Just settling up my bar tab." So it was it was like Lori was people watching, like, "Oh, look at that," and, like, there was somebody up on this platform, and she was dancing, and our legal attorney went, "I think somebody should probably just go get her a pole or something." The way she and I was so oblivious because I was air guitaring to all the songs with my guy Mike, and I was like, "You didn't see that?" I said, "No, I didn't see it. I was just enjoying the music and the fun."
Wow. No, we yeah, last time we went there's just so much memorabilia,
Yeah.
and it was, like, in the afternoon, so there was nobody was playing or anything. We just walked in and grabbed a bite and just we're just looking at the walls, basically. But there's so much stuff in there, and I'm just like, "Holy crap." But, yeah, we came back, and it is a lot at night when people are because Sammy's just he's just he's just screwing around, so it's yeah, it's fun to watch, so.
Speaking of Sammy, this was funny. I saw this video he posted of him the other day, and it was like he's standing there and he's talking about some trash that blew into his yard or something like that. And he picks it up, and it's a bag of one of those party sized bags or something like that of Lace potato chips. So he's sitting there, standing there with the bag, and he goes, "Look at this, Lay's potato chips." And they had to put a label on there that said, "Made with real potatoes." And he's like, "They're potato chips. Why do you have to put," and I'm not saying it exactly like he said it, but why do we have to put "made with real potatoes" on a potato chip bag? And then he talked about a friend, I think he said his name was Bob. He goes, "I miss him because he would be able to explain all this stuff to me like, yeah, there's more going on than you." So it sounds like his buddy was a kind of in the know of
There's a
some things, but
conspiracy somewhere.
yeah.
My
And
word.
so I picked it up when, because you know me, I like my conspiracy. So I was laughing. That's why it stood out. Like, yeah, there's a reason why they have to put "made with real potatoes" on that potato chip bag.
Dude, I have a whole book of American conspiracy theories in my foyer on my chest. So I have the Nobu cookbook, the Anthony Bourdain. It's kind of like the just his version of where you should go in every city, basically. And Waffle House Vistas, which is a photo book from like every Waffle House across the country. And then the last one is American conspiracy theories.
Lori just ordered this book. My wife, she ordered this book. It's about this thick. When she told me she ordered it, I was like, "Oh, that'll be a cool read." When I got it, when we got it, I'm looking at it going, when would I have the time to sit there and read that? And it was some book about the beginnings or the history, and it's a conspiracy book about the CIA. And
Oh,
I'm just like,
God.
"Oh my gosh." I'm sitting there going, and she goes, "I can't wait to read this when we're in Cabo." And I'm like, "Okay, you can read it. You can tell me all about it because I don't know what book I'm going to take when I go."
Man,
I actually,
I'm so stoked with the Kindle that I have right now
yeah.
because I told you about this already, but It does Audible and Kindle at the same time, so you can pair your earbuds to the device, and as you're reading the book, it will read it back to you over Audible, and I'm just like, "Okay, which book am I reading first? Because that's how I go to the beach."
Yeah, because I agree with you. I love hearing as I'm reading. So I've got 4 books. I've got one that I'm reading now, conspiracy related. I have the John Grisham new book because I've always liked his legal thrillers. So I bought that a couple of weeks ago. I have a biography that my mother-in-law gave me on Clayton Kershaw. And
Okay, you're
then
loving
I
that one.
know, yeah, and then I know we talked about this 3rd or 4th episode, but right before Charlie Kirk had passed, he had finished his last book. And I have that one that I want to read too. That's should be very interesting. I've got that one here waiting for me on my shelf. So I've got several. So I'm like, okay, which one or two am I gonna take? Because the it's gonna we're flying out of Greenville. So we've got a connecting flight out of Dallas. So it's gonna be kind of a long day of flying to get there in a couple of weeks, but it's I've got some stuff that I'll be able to read. But and
Well, it's cool
we
though. I mean, it's good to have that break where you can actually freaking read a book.
yeah,
We don't
because
we
that's
don't get that very often.
no, we don't. And speaking of new music, I'm gonna plug. We were just talking about my first concerts that we went to unsupervised. Well, yesterday there's a new kids movie coming out, and Brian Adams actually did the soundtrack to that album. I mean, to the movie. So he has a few new songs out that are so my youngest son will love them. And then also Richard Marx dropped a new album yesterday. But what it is, it's really cool. It's I You may not know this about me, but Lori and I love listening to big band stuff because I we just love the rhythm and we just love all the instruments and how it comes together and just the kind of because that if we just want kind of a mellow evening, we'll listen to something like that. And he dropped an album of some original new big band sounding stuff, but then also some old classics. And we were listening to that last night, and he has Rod Stewart with him on there. He's got some other people that do some duets with him. So it was, if I know this is Striper is hard rock and stuff like that, but if you also have flavors like that and you like big band stuff, his voice matched really good with the big band theme of that album. So it was pretty cool. So it's called After Hours. So since we talked about my first two unsupervised, they both dropped. Brian Adams was an EP, but Richard Marx was a full length. So
Well, let me give you one more, and we'll put this in the show notes, but, I don't know if you know this, but the lead guitar player for Creed and Alter Bridge also does Frank Sinatra stuff because
yes, I saw that.
he's a really good singer, so we can drop this in the show notes, but yeah, he always does, like, a Christmas spot, but he's done, like, a full tour of just doing Sinatra covers, and it's pretty freaking cool. I'm think of this Guitar Hero guy doing Sinatra, and so he's and like I say, he's a really good singer, so yeah, well, I could drop this in the notes, but yeah, it's a funky little I don't know, just a zag. 'Cause he does I mean, hell, he's in, like, 3 bands, and then he's doing Sinatra stuff, and so it's interesting.
Kind of sounds like a busy Michael Sweet doing so many different things.
It's not it's yeah, it's definitely adjacent.
So for everybody who asks us the question, is all you're going to talk about is Striper? No, we do. Our focus is on them, but we do talk about other things on the show other than what the band Striper. We don't just solely devote everything because we have a lot of different influences. We have a lot of different taste in music. I mean, we don't always line up on what each other likes, but I enjoy hearing what you vibe with, and we do talk about different things other than just Striper. So
My wife
and
asks
Michael
me this
Sweet.
every week.
So it's and one day we might actually. because we're doing these every week, we might actually go, okay, what are we going to talk about this week? I don't know. We've talked about everything we possibly can. So
We'll get there eventually, I hope. So,
we can still, we haven't really talked about the future because I feel like we still got a lot of stuff we can talk about with Striper. And as long as they
of
continue
course.
to put new stuff out, we have things that we can talk about. But there's going to come a time where a year, 2 years down the road, we might have to say, okay, let's kind of start mixing it in and we'll always have a striper vibe to it, but we might expand it and do stuff like I was talking. I mean, this was funny. I was talking to Lori last night and I told her because we went out to eat, we went over to some friend's house and during the conversation, somebody started talking about cruises. And I went, yeah, there's a Monsters of Rock cruise coming up in April and
No,
Striper's going to be on it.
no,
And,
no.
and
You do that, brother.
oh, you wouldn't want to go.
If if it was just me and you, yes. My I've already talked about this with my wife. It's not happening.
Well, let's put it to you this way. Let's put it to you this way. If we ever were to go on that, it would be just me going because I know. So, from my mindset, yes, it would be just me and you. Go.
Okay. All right, cool. As long as we're in that box, then cool. But yeah, bringing the wives would be because I don't even know if I want to spend 5 days with those people, much less my wife. We listen to other podcasts and they go on the Kiss cruises and the Monsters of Rock cruise, and it just it sounds like a lot to me. So, but hey, who knows?
They've got to me, I felt like they had a pretty decent lineup this year.
Well, they
Um,
usually do. That's the thing. It's never a bad lineup. It's just I don't I've never been on one, so I don't know how that whole thing gets managed and how you get the people in and out and all that kind of stuff. So it it feels a little funky to me, but wouldn't be something that I wouldn't try if I was just if it was like I say, if it was just me and you, we could navigate it.
yeah, maybe next year. Maybe next year.
All
Because
right,
this year,
we could talk about it.
I will say this year, I think it overlaps with your Alter Bridge concert
It
and
does.
so I think it overlaps with that. So I knew it couldn't happen this year.
Well, and
But
we got freaking Barry Manilow right next to that
dude,
also.
yeah.
I got Alta Bridge and Barry Manilow within 3 days.
Well, don't you have Steve Vai and Joe Satriani
Oh
in there as
god,
well?
and Steve Vai the day yes, I have 3 concerts in 4 days, which, you know what? I don't care. You know what? Just buy the damn ticket. I don't
I
care.
know it was funny going back to listening to people yesterday on our sales meeting. It like one person spoke up and said, "Yeah, I've been to one concert in my life. I'm just not a concert person." And for me, I'm just like, I just love going to concerts so much. It's just like I couldn't imagine only having been to one in my and I'm not judging because everybody has their thing that they like to do. I just like for me, it's just like, wow, I couldn't imagine not going and seeing these bands that I like.
No, to me, that's absolutely insane. Well, because of a big part of mine and my wife's relationship, we grew up listening to stuff, and I when we were broke, we were still listening to CDs in our living room. Now we've been to s there's a like I say, we only have, like, 3 bands that are on our bucket list that we have not seen,
But who
and
is that?
actually, no, there's 2, Sade and Duran Duran.
If you go to that, I'm going with you. All right.
Which one, Sade or Duran Duran?
Duran Duran.
You've never
If
seen
you
Duran Duran?
No,
You
I've
of
never
all
seen 'em.
people.
Yes, I know, trust me. I never seen them, and then the last time that they came through Atlanta, I was like, "Ooh, I wanna go see them." But what ended up happening was I was traveling for work, so I wasn't able to see them last time they came through, so if they ever come back, hopefully they will, please keep me in mind because they are, like, one that I would wanna go see as well, so I will if you don't mind having a 3rd wheel on your date night, I will be glad to go.
No, because I know what a big fan you are. It absolutely would put you on that 3rd wheel. But
But what there
that's gonna be like a Chastain show, something bougie
yeah,
as
yeah.
but anyway,
But
and so will Sade.
speaking of Duran Duran, that kind of is a good segue into the news desk right now
Okay.
because and people are like, "Oh, well, Duran
I'm
Duran
doing the same thing.
segue into the Striper news desk." But it's interesting that you said Duran Duran because this week, what Michael Sweet was talking about, he was talking about on his Facebook page that by the time this drops, his first song from his inspirational album, The Master Plan, would already be available. So he's dropping the first single from his inspirational album on Monday, which is January 19th. But when you hear this, this is going to be January 20th. So the song will already be out. So we'll be able to talk about that song next week when we hear it. He went on to say, will be out. It's the title track and it's a style of song that he always wanted to do. And he went on to say, "I'm a huge Duran Duran fan, and believe it or not, this song has definitely a little Ordinary World vibe to it." So
Mm, okay.
I am very interested to hear this particular song, especially being a Duran Duran fan and especially being I love that song Ordinary World. That came out in 91-ish, 92-ish. I remember just loving that song at the time. And he went on to say in this particular one, he's been talking about this album for 4 years now, and it's finally going to be here. And my hopes and dreams are to see it touch hearts, move souls. If that happens, mission accomplished. Stay tuned and thanks for supporting. But yeah, first song is dropping Monday. But by the time you hear this, the song's already out. So we're going to talk about the song next week. So apparently it's a title track and it's kind of got a Duran Duran vibe to it.
Well, I'll take that. We're both Duran Duran fans. I have stories that I will not talk about right now.
Well, I'll talk about them. I remember when we were in California and you and my brother were buying the same hat and they only had two of them. And I was like, all upset that this was only a
But
couple
it
of
was the
years
Nick
ago.
Rhodes hat.
And this was only a couple of years ago, so I was 49 or 50. No, just kidding. This was like when I was 10. So we were all in California visiting our aunt and uncle. I don't remember where we were, but we went somewhere and we saw
We were at
these
Disney.
things. Was it there? Okay. And we went there and we saw these hats that we liked, but they only had two of them. And I was all upset because I wasn't getting one of them, being the youngest of all of us. And then all of a sudden, you spotted this hat, and you're like, "Man, this hat's cool, Tim. This has got like a Nick Rhodes vibe to it." And I went, "Yeah, it does." And then I was like, "Yeah, that's the hat I want." And I put it on. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Nick Rhodes, Duran Duran." So this was '84 when they were really, really big. I mean, New Moon on Monday, Union of the Saint, The Reflex, all of that kind of stuff had just been released. So I'm like walking around, "Yeah, I got myself a Nick Rhodes hat. My hat's better than yours." So
My word. All right. Way to pull all that back into context.
So,
Good job.
but he also went on and talked a little bit about, a little bit more about the master plan. And he just said, again, it's something that he's been wanting to do. And the thing I'm looking, he goes, it's an album you can put on in the morning, you can listen to in the evening to calm you after a stressful day. So as we've already talked, if you recall, that this album is not going to be a rock album. It's not going to be his normal vibe. He said it's going to be again Duran Duran, Ambrosia, a little bit of Eagles in there. So it's going to have more of a 70s vibe to it outside of probably the Duran Duran song. But he goes, it definitely has its edgy moments, but it is not a metal album by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of guitar solos, lots of guitars for sure. So I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
I'm very interested in the Ambrosia reference because as a child of the late 70s, early 80s. Ambrosia was always kind of around, and so I'm kinda thinking about, all right, what what exactly are we dealing with? And Ambrosia did have a bunch of guitars, but they were soft and silky and all that kinda stuff, so I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited to see what we get.
Yeah, I am too. I think it's gonna be again, we can't don't have the expectation of it being a metal album. It's gonna be a complete it sounds like it's gonna be a completely different vibe, but I like the artist he's mentioned that it's gonna kind of be influenced by. Oh,
Well, if you're talking about Mike doing a project, the the bar is gonna be up here somewhere, so I at this point, I hate having, like, almost the expectations that I have from this dude, but he's always set it up for me, just everything's good. I would be mad if he, like, released something that was just kinda crappy because it's not his work ethic, it's not his bar, so, yeah, I always expect something very good from this dude.
yeah, and that's another great segue into what he posted about Striper this week. He went on to say, like you said, with the expectations, he says here, we're almost wrapped up with basic tracking for the new Striper album. This was actually posted while we were recording last week. So this news is about a old, but it's interesting what he said. All tracks will be complete as of today. So they should be completed. And he went on to say, this is our 18th album. Who knows? We'll make that 21 album goal because I think he's always said, I want to do 21 and 21. So he's getting up there with those numbers. But he going back to the expectations people say, and this is not his mindset. If you read what is on social media, his mindset, he goes, people ask me from time to time, do you ever feel like you're spinning your wheels recording new music? And he says, no, my answer is the same. Heck no. Even if it doesn't get the airplay it once did, it doesn't sell as many copies. That's not why we do this. If one song changes one life, then the purpose is clear, which again is their mission in a sense, while they're doing something that they love with making music. And he just says, also, I just love making new music and seeing and hearing it come to life. So with that in mind, you know, he's not just out there just okay, it's time to record another album. If you read what he says, there's always a song. He always has a song going on in his head. It's always there. And he always wants to make it better than the last one. He's got that drive to him. So it would be very, it would be very weird for me, like you said, if he put something out, and I'm not saying it's gonna, and let me say this. I'm not saying that over and over and over, like it's going to be better than the last, even though that's what they strive to do. Let's make it better than the last album. But I would be very surprised if he ever put something out and it just sucked. I mean, I just don't see that happening. Not with his work ethic, not with what drives him based upon what you see in social media, because he wants to do the best that he can.
No, no, his I think the work ethic, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but yeah, his work ethic is freaking ridiculous, and that's where the quality of the material comes from, in my opinion. So yeah, if we ever got something from Michael Sweet, any kind of project, because he's probably producing the thing in the first place that sucked. I just don't see it happening. And if it does actually, if it falls on its face, then he's probably going to retire.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's not up to that standard, I could definitely say, okay, because he always talks about, I believe, I think he mentions it from time to time. I hope I'm not getting him confused with somebody else. Like, but hey, if we're not at our peak, if we're not performing well, it's time to hang it up. Or if my voice is not up to standard, let's get somebody new in and I'll just play the guitar.
They've already talked about that.
We talked a little bit about that
So we
last
talked
week.
a little bit about that last week, and it's like, okay, but he might have lost a little pinch of his voice, but
But who
I don't.
doesn't?
But who doesn't? I mean, how old is the guy? He's in his 60s now.
63.
Yeah, so it's like you can't
No,
do this
62.
forever.
62. He'll be
Yeah.
63 this year. 62.
Okay. Well, even. whatever. I'm just saying. I know Mick Jagger's and like he's 100 years old and he's still doing the thing. But when you're seeing stuff like that, like Mike does, it's like, hmm, at some point we're gonna have to tone this down a little bit and drop an octave or whatever we need to do. So yeah, I get it.
You bring up a good point because even if you still sound good, even if you drop it down an octave, it's still great because one of the people that I think about is Mike Tramp has done 3 songs of White Lion, like version 1 or volume 1, 2, and he just came out with a 3rd one. And if you go listen to them, don't expect it to be a remake of we're trying to just I'm just trying to re-record these songs. He's re-recording them based on his vocal ability today. They may not be as fast, they may not be as hard. I've enjoyed listening to them because I was always a White Lion fan back in the day, but you can tell that his vocal range is toned down or tuned down an octave or so. But to me, he still sounds good even with it where his voice is at today.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. I'm not a singer. I'm a freaking drummer, so I don't know anything, but it's I feel like it's insane when you're dealing with late 50s, early 60s and trying to hit some of those notes. It makes no sense. It's like, yeah, of course you're tuning down an octave so you can actually sing the dang song. And yeah, it's just some of the stuff it pisses me off that the fans like, "Oh, well, he's not 25 anymore." It's like, "Yeah, no, he's not 25. He's freaking 60." It's like
And see, there's a huge difference, and that's why when you hear a song by Stryper like Transgressor and that scream, that signature scream that he does at the beginning, that he's still able to do that
that's insane.
at his age. But to me, there's a huge difference in tuning down your voice to stay within your capability of what you can do versus going out and sounding like Vince Neil. It's like night
Oof.
and day, night and day, different conversation there based upon, excuse me, based upon the ability that one can do. Yeah,
No, you're absolutely right. One of my biggest platforms that I'm standing on right now is like, why is Motley Crue still touring? Because Vince Neil can't sing anymore. And I hate it. I grew up with these guys and I love Motley Crue, but I mean it's over, dude. And that happens.
yeah,
But when you're listening to Mike, if what he was doing was not at his level of what he wanted to do, he would walk. I totally feel like he would just walk away.
yeah. Or he would bring somebody else in
Maybe.
and they would now be a 5-piece band, and him and Oz would
Well,
do
I
the
mean,
guitars.
what we're
And
what we're about to talk about, dude, there's a ish ton of background vocals on this record.
what was interesting, okay, so we're 50 minutes in and we're finally getting to the topic of the day. But
Well, that's what we
today,
do.
I know that's what we do, which is fine. Unified, Sweet and Lynch, release number 2, same lineup as the first album. So you have, of course, Michael Sweet, you have George Lynch, you have Brian Tichy on drums, and James Lomenzo on bass guitar. And if you don't know, James Lomenzo, his birthday was this past week. I think it was the 13th. He turned 67 years old. So happy
That's
birthday
crazy.
to James Lomenzo.
And we're at Spirit House.
And so they had the additional personnel on this, the production team, producer, Michael Sweet, according to the research that I found, because I will admit on this one, as much as and the more I listened to it this week, we were talking about this right before we started recording. The more I listened to this album this week, the more and more I love this album. I always knew I liked it. There were some songs I really liked on it, but I really, really like it. But I will admit this, I don't have it on CD. I don't have it on vinyl. I only have it on when I digital, where I bought it. So not every song could I find lyrics on it to kind of follow along with some of the lyrics. And so that was a little bit challenging to get to, but the songs themselves, I really, really love this album.
I No, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I had a problem, well, because 'cause I'm trying to deal with Wikipedia, but even Spotify didn't have lyrics, didn't have
Yeah.
much of anything, so I was, like, just kinda going through it this morning. It's like, "Alright, this is strong lyric," and I made some notes and whatnot. But, yeah, you got the dream team back together. You got Tichy, you got Lamenzo, you got Lynch. I mean, again, we got the super group back together. And so, can I talk about the YouTube stuff?
Yeah, go ahead. Because I've got some notes to talk about too before we get into the actual songs and what we liked about them, what we didn't. But yeah, talk about the YouTube stuff
Alright,
because I didn't watch that.
alright, cool. So there's 3 kinda making of YouTube videos for this record. They're not long, they're like 6 minutes, 8 minutes, but it was a really cool kinda into the studio kinda thing, and I don't know, it kinda turned me on a little bit. So it was like, you got the official one from Frontier. So, "Hey, we're making this record. Here's the promo video," and it was cool. And but I wrote some notes down, and it was just like, the it feels like Mike and George have, like, a pretty freaking good relationship with each other creatively, which
Yeah.
is which is
Yeah, that was
cool.
kind of some of my notes that I had is them talking about each other, but I'll mention that in just a minute. But I would agree with you on that point.
Yeah, well, and when I was watching the videos, they had a, spot when they were in the studio. They're at Spirit House, and they're recording on reel to reel. And I know you kids don't know what that means, but literally recording on reel to reel track. And I was like, "What year are we in right now?" Because
Yeah.
that was weird. Because it was 32 RPM, which alright, I'm not getting into the weeds on this, but, yeah, great. And it was cool because they showed Mike with his producer hat on. So he's like, "Hey, can we do it this way, or how do you?" He he seems like a very open-minded producer, because when he was talking to Tichy about some of the drum parts, he's like, "Hey, I see it this way, but how do you see it?" And so they it was a good compromise.
Yeah, good
And
collaboration going on.
same thing with Lamenzo. He he seems like he always has something in his head, but he would always collaborate with the musician playing the part, which that's pretty cool. So he's not like a ham-fisted producer on this stuff. So yeah, so there's 3 videos. One's the official Frontier, one's I think a fan, it might be a fan film, but then there's a separate video of just Tichy and Lamenzo just talking back and forth because they're the rhythm section. So yeah, it was cool. I like doing this kind of stuff in the background just to kind of see what's going on behind the scenes. And Mike is a producer. It That was cool because you could kind of see his style.
With the producing.
Yeah, yeah, he's not beating anybody over the head with
Yeah.
anything. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was just kind of, hey, this is what I see, but what do you see? So
And, ultimately, that might be why why the albums that he produces sound so well, because I could envision I don't make music, but just working, I have my way of thinking about things, but it's like, "Hey, sometimes my way may not be the best way. So what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Yeah, that sounds, oh, that's better than what I was thinking." So it's not just this, it's my way or the highway. It's this collaborative thing to get to the best musically sounding, lyrically kind of thing going on within the songs. And I think that's why we get such great music from Michael Sweet based upon what you just said, is that it's more collaborative than this is how it's going to be, which I could see some other people doing.
Well, I see him having the handle on the lyrics, especially on the Sweet Lynch stuff and the solo projects, but all the other stuff is very collaborative. 'Cause,
Okay. Yeah.
you're
I hear
freaking
you.
dealing with
That
Brian
makes
Tichy
sense.
and James Amenzo and George Lynch. Come on. That you gotta get some of their input even though your lyrics are gonna be solid. That's never gonna be a problem. But you got these other insane musicians around you, so you need to use the resources that you have.
Yeah. And going back to what you were just saying a minute ago, some of the notes that I had that I pulled out of here is that they have, it appears from what I've read, that Lynch and Sweet have these differences, but they're very respectful of each other as well. Because
Absolutely.
as we all know, and we talked about this on episode 15, you have Sweet being a very strong believer in faith. And then you have Lynch being someone who calls himself almost an atheist in a sense. So they
Well, he
have
does call himself
such
an atheist.
so you have this very diverse view on things like that. Sweet, according to what I researched, I don't agree with George's spiritual views, but we respect each other as musicians, friends, and human beings. And then on the other side, Lynch has been quoted as saying, based upon what I said, or based upon what I read, his respect for Sweet, despite saying he was never a big Striper fan, or he was never a Striper fan, but he praised Sweet's talent, calling him a great melodic power singer. And this doesn't surprise me as well. One of the nicest of all the singers that he's ever worked with. And so I think that's what's making this collaboration, even though they have these different views, they respect each other where they're at musically for what they do, and then they can make it work together.
Well, yeah, when you get to that level, you're a pro musician. It's like, okay, I can work with this person or I can't. And yeah, Lynch is always kind of identified as a atheist and he but he really didn't give a crap about Mike's, beliefs or whatever. It's like, okay, can we work together? And I feel like that's always been kind of the blueprint that they've worked with from day one. It's like Mike, because I think, dang it, what was that interview? I think there was an interview where Lynch was like, "I don't care what Mike writes. It's not my deal. My deal is to come in and do the guitars and do the solos and all that kind of stuff." So he was never really looking at Mike from a lens of religion or any of that or beliefs or whatever. So part of the reason why I think it works.
Yeah, because I mean the thing is, if you go back and you listen to this album, yes, it's not preachy, it's not gonna say Jesus, it's not gonna say God, it's not gonna say this, but you take a song like on this album, Walk is one of my favorite songs off of this album. But if you take that lyric and like walk with the wise, run with the fools, never rise, I think that's how it goes. My mind's
Pretty
kind of,
close.
yeah, it's something along that. Well, that right there is taken from Proverbs 13:20 when it says, "He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools is going to be destroyed." So even even though they're not outwardly Striper lyrics, you can still see Michael Sweet's faith coming through. And that to me is like, oh yeah, it's your faith, but it's just common sense. Yeah, if you walk with wise people, surround yourself with those people, because if you run with an idiot, it's not going to go well for you. But outside of that, it's very okay. Can we talk about the lyric that we talked about earlier this week from that song?
Give me 30 seconds and then yes, we can.
Okay.
Um, yeah, the the thing one of the initial interviews when they started this collaboration was George saying, "I don't care what Mike writes about, and I'm just gonna do my thing." So he just he really didn't give a crap about because yeah, there's a ton of like imagery on here on both records from Mike, and George was like, "Well, hey man, he's the songwriter, I'm the guitar player, and we're gonna do the thing," and it worked out. So yeah, it's a funky partnership, but it seems to be working out a little bit. So do your
Yeah,
thing.
it's yeah, so one of the things that we were talking about, and you can hear it, I'm playing Walk in the background right now. And so the thing I love about this song is the changing of the bridge or the musically it goes through it. And this song clocks in at a little over 5.5 minutes. I like the lyric content to it. And as I say this, I am not saying this critically. I am not saying this judgmentally. I'm not saying this in any way because I don't care. Yeah, I don't care. You know, but when I went back, like I said earlier, I don't have the CD, I don't have the vinyl, so I never read through the lyrics if they're in the album cover, but or in the jacket sleeves or whatever. But when I was going through it this week, there's a lyric in here that says, ever get the feeling, it's right at the beginning, ever get the feeling that you never knew of the one who's sticking it to you, split personality. I always thought it said a shady history. That's the way my mind interpreted it. But then when I look at Spotify and I look at the lyrics online, it doesn't, according to that, doesn't say split personality, a shady history. It's split personality, a shitty history. And I started laughing because I just started going, yeah, that's a word that would never be put on a Striper album, to my knowledge. Maybe one day they will, but to me, I could just see the fan base of Striper if they ever put the word shitty on an album. And if it's shady, please let me know. But when I went back and listened to it, I'm like, yeah, it sure does sound like it's shitty and not shady.
So on Spotify, when you're listening to the song and you scroll down a little, it's scrolling the lyrics and it says shitty.
And so when I heard that, I was just like, man, this song has been out for 2017. And I listened to this song so much and I never read along with it to the lyrics. Just never did. And so my mind interpreted it as shady. And because I would use this song like when I was planking or something like that, because I just love the vibe of this song. And so for the past 9 years, I was saying split personality, a shady history. Now I get to sing it a little bit differently, you know? So it's just kind of funny. But the overall Lynch's guitar playing, and it's got a pretty cool video to it. If you go watch the video, go look it up on YouTube. It's got a really cool video. They're out in Hollywood. It's really cool vibe with the video. But just to me, lyrically, what this song is saying, again, it's saying Proverbs 13:20. But even if you don't have faith, like George Lynch doesn't, to me, this is just a song about be smart. Just watch who you walk with in life. Because you and I have talked about this so many times. It's like, listen, we're in our 50s. We don't have time to put up with crap. We really don't. I was sitting there telling this to my wife the other day, and I read this, and to me, I'm not even halfway done with my life. So I'm planning on being 104. But that's a story for another day. But when you get to our age, you start to see like, hey, I have less life in front of me than I do behind me. I have more life behind me. So you really, for those that are like in their 20s or 30s listening to this, really, you really start to think about, for me, I really start to think about things differently. Like, who do I want to spend my time with? Who do I want to go through life with? Do I want to be with people who are critical, who are judgmental, who are always picking at you, or always just about everything? Or do I want to be around people that are that are going to be positive, they're going to build up, that we can say anything to and not be judgmental, but be real with each other. So,
That
if you you and I have had times where we've had to be like, okay, let's have a talk. And we've had those talks and we've worked through it and we've come out the other side. But then there's people you who don't want to have those talks, who don't, and it's just like, listen, I love you. I'm still here if you need me. But if this is how we're gonna be with each other, I got I don't I don't have time for it anymore. And it's just gonna be like, let's build each other up versus tearing each other down. And let's walk through this. Let's get through it.
I don't I don't have time for people that are trying to like I don't even know what the word is. Just try trying to tear people down and just I have like I could probably count on this hand how many people that are very important in my life. So yeah, and I'm old. I'm 50, about to be 55. So I I don't have time. I got a few friends and most of them are freaking related to me, which I don't know what that says, but yeah, it's once you get to a certain spot, it's like it's like are we gonna go bury a body together or are we just I've had that conversation with my wife a couple times. It's we've been married coming up on 32 years. So yeah, so it's like who who are your like real friends? You got to figure that out.
And I think that's why I love this song so much. Who are your real friends? Who are the ones? Because I mean, if you keep going through the lyrics on this, do what is right, lead the
Yep.
race, take the prize, walk with the wise to be wise. And then it goes on to say, hey, so many times we know the signs of the ones who try to hurt us. They want to hide, but they always find their way back in the door. And this is so true. And I think this is exactly what we're talking about. Nothing
But
wrong with you moving on and choosing separation. It's like, listen, I
yes,
don't need the
you're
negativity. I don't need the
no,
negativity anymore.
no, you're absolutely right. But you know, when we get to our ages, we figure out who's going to have us in the mix, right? So when you get to your he's even into your 30s, I feel like a lot of times you don't really know who's going to have your back. Because I got a call from my sister today, and I'm having like some migraine issues, and she's like, "Well, wait, don't you have to play drums tomorrow at church?" I'm just like, "Yes, I do." And she was like, "Does your praise team know what's going on?" I was like, "Yes, they do. We've been down this road before." But the fact that she called to check in, I mean, there's only like one or two people outside of my family that are going to call and check on me. And that's fine, but at least I have them. But yeah, I could count on like I say, I could count on one hand the
And
people that
I'm
would bail me out of jail.
yeah, I had to be bailed out one time. Different story for a different day. Spent
I would
12
bail
hours.
I would bail you out of jail if you needed it.
I spent 12 hours in a holding cell. So it was a very interesting story.
God. What?
Co-
Hold on. How old were you?
32.
story that I don't know. Oh
I never
my
told you that
word.
story.
At 32? No.
My God.
We can talk about this later, it's fine.
Yeah, we'll save this. This was when I was. This was what was funny. For those of you that listen to and live in the Atlanta area, I used to work at Clear Channel back in the day, and if you listen to 640 WGST and listen to Kim Peterson, the Kimmer, on my last day there, they had me share the story of me being arrested, and
Wait,
they
were you on the radio with the Kimmer?
yeah, I used to be the, board operator for him, and it was great because what ended up happening was they they we would split, like, somebody else would be on for the first couple of hours, and I would be on for the second half of his show. He went to the what do you call him? The general manager or the main guy over the station, and he said, "I want Tim doing my whole show. He gets what I do." And so I was on with him and Wayne, no offense, and I would pipe in every now and then, but they they found out I was arrested. They found out I was in jail. They found out why, and they were rolling on the ground of why and what happened. Just being in the cell, it was why I was arrested was stupid. Okay, I didn't. Yes, did I do something wrong? Yes, but was it intentional? No. So it's it's
Oh my god, you're
so I
killing
ended
me
up
right now, bro. So
so
so so so for those that don't know, Tim and I are cousins, and I am definitely more of the black sheep than Tim, so I gotta get this off the air and find out what absolutely happened.
I had an outstanding warrant for my arrest.
You're not serious right now.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not a bad story. I'll tell it to you in like 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll go into more details.
Tim's never killed anybody, I promise.
So what ended up happening, my wife was pregnant with my second child. I got pulled over for an expired tag because my car was in the shop and all this other kind of stuff. I was going to get the tag taken care of. I pulled over. I got pulled over. I showed it to the cop. I said, listen, here is my information. I'm going to take the tag. I'm going to get this taken care of today. I just got out of the shop today. And she was just the law is the law. I'm like, how would I have gotten this tag done when it was in the shop? And so she wrote me a ticket. This was like right at the end of November. My I had a court date 2 days before Christmas. My wife had our second son in the middle of the December. The ticket fell behind the file cabinet because I found it when we moved out of that place. And I just forgot about the ticket. It was just out of sight, out of mind. So I'm driving home from the radio station one morning. It's 6:30 in the morning. I get pulled over for what are you doing out this early in the morning? Something like that. And so I get pulled over and the officer is very nice. He comes over and he goes, yeah, let me just take your tag title. It's only be a second. Comes back up to the door and he goes, Mr. Harper, can you step out of the car, please? And I went,
Oh my
sure. And he goes, I hate to tell you that this goes from worse to worse and I have no other better thing to do. And so he goes, there's an outstanding warrant for your arrest and I have to take you in. And I went,
god.
"What?" And so he cuffs me, puts me in the back of the car. My wife's expecting me to be home by now, and she calls she calls and he goes, "This says home." I said, "Yeah, would you mind answering it and tell her what's going on?" So he picks up the phone and goes, "Officer so and so." My wife went, "Oh, I'm sorry, got the wrong number." Click. So she calls the number back, answers the phone, "Officer so and so, this is Tim's phone." And she went, "Oh my God, is he okay?" And he tells her, "Well, I've got him in the back. I got to take him to jail," all this other kind of stuff. So They take me in, they process me, I get booked, I have my mugshot out there. And what ended up happening was they ended up while I'm sitting in there, it's like 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and I'm sitting there going, "Okay, I'm supposed to be back at the station, like, in 4 hours. Hopefully, my wife will call and say, because I don't have a phone, I don't have anything, going on. So, hopefully, they'll sit there and they'll call and sit there and say it. She'll call there, and then, once I can call her, we can figure out how I'm gonna get out of here." So, I have no idea what's going on the outside world. My first vision when I walk in, I'm in this holding cell. There's probably about 30 people in there. There's a toilet like in the corner. Does it have a wall around it? No. It's just sitting out there in the open. I walk in, there's somebody sitting there taking a dump on the toilet right there in front of everybody. And then I'm like going, "Oh my gosh." So then I go sit down and there's some drunk kid. He's probably about 19 or 20 that walks in, and they take your shoelaces away from you. So you have your shoes. My shoes are sitting there open. He's sitting there. Then he pukes on me, and it goes all down my leg into the shoe because the shoe is open. So that happens. And then as it starts to clear out later on in the day, I go sit down and I go, "Okay, I'm going to lay on this bench here. I'm going to face the wall." As I'm lying there, this is the truth. I can still picture this guy's face to this day. All of a sudden, somebody is grabbing my butt and squeezing it. I turn around and there is a small Hispanic guy with a little mustache grinning at me. And I just went, "I have got to get out of here." So finally, about 12 hours later, I call my wife and I say, "Get me out of here." And she said, "Okay, we're already there. We're already trying to get you out. We'll get you out." And then it was probably a couple of more hours later that I was finally bailed out. So then I called the attorney at the radio station and he was like, "Call the prosecuting attorney." So I called the prosecuting attorney, told him everything that happened. And he went, "You spent how much time in jail?" And I said, "This is how much time I spent in jail." He goes, "I am so sorry. This should have never happened to you. We're going to expunge this or whatever. It'll never show up on your record," which I still carry the paperwork to me to this day, just in case it somehow falls back onto my record. But it got all cleared up. But that was my experience in jail.
And I thought I knew everything about you.
So now that we got sidetracked on that for
Wow.
about 10
Now that
minutes.
we're a minute 17 in.
So you could just imagine me telling that story to Kimmer and Wayne, no offense. They're just sitting there dying laughing the entire time I'm telling them the story because I went into a little bit more detail than I did here, and they're just rolling on the ground.
Well, just you telling the story to Kimmer is freaking awesome. I mean, for those of y'all that don't know, Kimmer is a freaking legend on talk radio, so but whatever. That is freaking hilarious, and thank you for that.
So should we get back to the album?
I guess we're so far off the rails. Yes, we can absolutely.
So
Do we didn't even get started good.
yeah, so we started talking about Walk, and Walk is like one of my favorite songs on this album. But when we go back to the album, the thing that I like about this album is I love George Lynch's playing on this album. I love Michael's vocals on this. I love Lomenzo. I love Tichi. It's Tichi, sorry.
Teaching.
Which one? Tichi, thank you. I love his plan, just the collaboration between the four of them. It just really comes through. And you've got your heart. You listen to the first song, Promised Land.
We got it going on in here, man. That thing is a banger, and it does this and the other thing, and it's
And it opens up with a Michael Sweet signature
yeah,
scream. It just
yeah,
like
just it.
in your face.
Well, the opening reminds me of straight up Judas Priest, but there's so many layers in this. In the first couple songs, there's a lot going on. Yeah, Promised Land is a freaking banger, dude. And it does have like that British heavy metal kind of vibe to it too. But then when we get to the bridge, it's a whole nother feel. See, this song to me is like, and it's long. It's 6 minutes. And so
Yeah, it clocks in at 4. This version clocks in at 4.
4 minutes?
Yeah, 4:13.
What am I thinking about? Maybe Walk is. There's one song on here that's like almost 6 minutes, but
Yeah, I think that's Walk.
I think it's
It's
probably
almost
Walk.
6 minutes.
Yeah, I think you're. Yeah,
because you got all the different bridge and the changes and the
but this
stuff going on there.
The Promised Land is just a banger. I mean, and just a overall opinion on this track for track, but I feel like George Lynch kind of sweeps in and saves a couple of these songs, because when I was making my notes, I was like, all right, the lyrics are like, all right, so we'll look at like Unified. Good lyrics, kind of, but then George Lynch comes in and saves the song with the solo. And I feel like that happens like a few times.
Yeah, because with Unified, which is, go ahead, and then I'll tell you my thoughts on Unified.
Well, not necessarily on that one song, but it just feels different because I like Mike producing, and I feel like he's pretty good at it, but it's just some of the things are like, I can tell that, okay, we don't have Oz, we don't have Mike. Of course, he's writing the lyrics and singing the songs and whatnot, but then George Lynch just kind of swoops in and saves. There's a couple songs on here I could skip, but if it weren't for George Lynch, I feel like he saves a couple songs on this record.
Yeah, for me, and we talked about this before the show. You said you can understand why this is one of my favorite albums based upon what the vibe of it, because with this particular song, it's more of a melodic rocker versus the heavy stuff like Promised Land opens up with. And again, that's why I think I love this album, is because it's got so many different kind of vibes to it and going through it. And I like this song. I go back to, we've talked about this before, we go back to 2017, and that's when the country really is starting to get the vibe, and we've got this song called Unified coming out. And it's just like, it's not only is this a song on the album, it's the title track of the album. And it's not, and typically the title track for a Stryper album is a little bit more rock, going heavy with it, pounding. This is definitely a different, this is not a hard rocker, but I like this song lyrically. I love when they get to the chorus part of it, because it starts off very like just kind of chilling, and then he gets that vocal going in, united, and then he just really, I feel like vocally takes it up in the chorus part of it. So this particular song, because I'll tell you this, when I go through this album, this song, and because I have certain songs that I do this with on different albums, and then you get into this part of the song, I just love how George is playing here. But I have different songs like Van Halen 3, when the song One, back to Van Halen 3. I'll hear the song once, and that song is almost 7 minutes long. I'll hear it and I'll play it again when I'm listening to it. I do that on this album with Tried and True and Unified, but I'll listen to those songs back to back, and then I'll go back to Tried and True. And I just love it. But then you've got songs like Afterlife on here. A very, to me, a very, to me, it's kind of darker. The way that
Yes.
it comes in, it's
Yep.
it's just the way the
It's one of my
drum
favorite
comes in.
songs on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this song here, but it's just got a more grittier edge to it, which is very different from Unified, very different from Tried and True, and Promised Land, which is the songs that we've already talked about. But again, that's why I like this album. It's Sweet and Lynch, but it's different styles all over the board.
Well, it's definitely not a Striper record.
Yeah.
Which is really cool because as I was listening, yeah, and you make great points. Afterlife is a little grittier. I'm sitting here looking at my notes, but and there's some songs that aren't like great, but then George Lynch is playing guitar. It's like crap. I feel like I'm listening to Van Halen. It's like the song might suck, but then Eddie starts playing the solo.
Yeah.
So there's some stuff in here just like that. And I'm not sure where we're going here.
It's funny you say that about Eddie Van Halen. And I've told you a little bit about the TikTok thing I'm doing. And I made a post the other day, and I said, Van Halen is Eddie. We need to stop DLR or Hagar. Yes, you had the different types of stuff in there, but that band is Eddie. Whether you like where they went with Hagar, or if you kind of came in on the back end and you're like, yeah, David's a little bit more party band. It's not as mature in the lyrics. And I actually used to be like, oh, I'm Hagar over D. But then when I kind of stopped and stepped back, and that's why I listened to Van Halen 3, because it's still Eddie.
Hey, Van Halen is your guitar player. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. But so you said that about that. But there's one song. I think it's the closing track of this album. Yeah, Live to Die.
Yeah, Live to Die.
And I'm sitting here listening to this song, and when they get to the guitar solo on this, I absolutely am just like, this guitar here in this album, it's about 2 minutes or so in, I'm like, I love this. I love what George is doing here.
Well, you said this before, though, that you were never a big Dokken fan.
Yeah.
See, yeah, when I hear this stuff, I'm like, yeah, this is freaking... I've always loved George Lynch as a guitar player. And Mike even said, he was like, I'd probably put him in my top 10. I'm like, okay, that's a lot. But yeah, he does absolutely swoop in and rescue a couple of these songs. It's like, I'm looking at Heart of Fire. It's a decent song, but the solo is really freaking good. And he really does come in and rescue some of these songs. It's only like 2 or 3. I mean, this album is good.
Yeah, because the Heart of Fire, as I listen to this song, as it gets into the chorus, I love the harmonies on this song.
Yeah, that's the other part I was going to talk about. When I was watching the YouTube stuff and the making of this record, they've got like 5 people singing backup on this thing. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
because I read, yeah, because this is what I read in my research talking about this. Because if you go to, it doesn't say it there. Shoot, I had it somewhere else. Is it here? I don't know where it was at. I'd have to go back and find it. But one of the things that this said was to avoid making it sound like a Striper album, that Sweet intentionally did not sing in the background vocal stacks, hiring outside singers, Robbie LeBlanc, Charles Foley, to give the harmonies a different texture to them than what you would normally hear on a Striper album. So like this part right here, you know, Heart of Fire, I just love how that comes in, and I'm just like, yes, I love that. That to me is,
it's got a, I don't even know what the vibe is, but yeah, I mean, it has, I won't say Boston, but it's got it definitely has a vibe. So I don't know, it's different. So I'm not sure exactly what they were going for there, but when I was watching the YouTube videos, they had like they were in a sound stage, and there were 4 dudes around the microphone singing all the harmony parts. I'm like, well, crap. It's interesting that they would do something like that, because I know Lynch and Tichy and, oh my God, Lomenzo, I know they can all sing backup, so I don't know, it was kind of funky, but still sounded good. Because they did have that layered kind of Striper lyric. When you listen to a Striper song, it's got 4 or 5 layers of harmonies, and that was kind of funky, but
yeah. And you know, you talk about Dokken, and when I say I was never really a fan, I heard some of their stuff, but I never really dove into them and listened to them. So I think maybe based on what you just said, I'm like, maybe I need to go back and listen to. See, I love this part of the song. Just that Michael Sweet singing, and you got the drums behind it, and you got that little guitar thing. I could listen to this album over and over and over again and not get tired of it. It's become one of my favorites. I need to get the vinyl on it.
all right. Well, that's anytime you can be a fan of something new, then that's awesome. So yeah, I don't know. I just, dang it, missing my pages. Crap. Sorry.
Yeah, and then while you're looking for that, you have the ballad, Tried and True.
I love this song.
This is, to me, it's just so kind of bluesy in a sense at the beginning. That may not be the right term for it, but it's just so bluesy. It comes in, and I just, you know, it was songs like this that we as Gen Xers, this is why we were mini adults at 10 years old, because we had no clue about life, but we're hearing lyrics like this in songs, so we become mini adults, like wanting to fall in love at the age of 10 years old. So that's why I just appreciate power ballads so much, because they're just so emotional and just so true. And it's just like, I saw this post the other day, it was hilarious, and I'm going to talk about another band real quick, but it was like, yeah, my man tells me, hey, you look good, you know, and then they go, while I grew up listening to songs by Air Supply that talk about the sun going through your hair and the radiant beauty that it shows, and the moonlight coming off your eyes, and that's what I was used to, and all I get nowadays is, hey, you look good. But you hear songs like this, and you hear, I just feel like when Sweet does a ballad or a song about his wife, his love for her, you can feel the emotion coming through it.
No, it's dripping off of him. No,
and this song, I forwarded to my wife, and I was like, did you listen to it yet? No, I saw you.
Wait, hold on. When did you forward this on to your wife?
A couple weeks ago when I was listening to it.
I forwarded this to my wife yesterday. Okay.
Yeah. So because I knew we were going to be talking about this album because we already kind of set this up for the 20th episode. So I'm sitting there listening to it, and I said, "Hey, did you hear the song yet?" No, I don't know if she's listened to it yet because now it's probably buried in her text messages. So I'll probably have to resend it to her and say, "You got to listen to this song." It's because it's just the this album is why I want them to tour. I want them to get out there and tour off of this album because if this is all they played, I would be happy. But again, Only to Rise was such a good album. But please, please find
These,
time to do
bro,
a 8-week tour on this album, on the band Sweet Lynch. I'm
it's
begging
not.
you, please.
It's not happening, bro. I mean,
And that
Lynch
was a
is
little bit of
in
the
KXM and Lynch Mob and this band, and none of them have toured.
I know.
It's
But he showed
probably
up at
not gonna
Loganville
happen.
last week.
Do what?
But he showed up at Loganville last week.
Well, doing guitar lesson.
But it's just that was one of the frustrations that I also read about coming off of this album from Michael Sweet was people want to see us tour, but we're not touring. So I don't know what the future of the band holds, but then they came out with another album 2 or 3 years ago that
Yeah,
didn't have Tichy and didn't have Lamenzo on it. But we'll talk about that one coming up in one of our 25 or 30 episodes. We'll talk a little bit more about that one. But no, this is why I want them to tour. This is incredible stuff that they're doing. And it's like, yes, I want to see this stuff live.
dude. Nobody wants to see KXM in concert more than me because Doug Pennick from King's X and Ray Luzier from Korn. I mean, there's several of these projects, and they never do anything, and it sucks. I mean, because you have a just this cadre of just amazing musicians, and they don't do the road. So
I know. And it's such a shame because it's again, it's just such great music that like you and I, some people would be fine not seeing them in concert because they're not concert people. But for you and I, we are
I
concert
want to
people.
see all.
We want to see the music we love. We want to see it live. And
Well,
it's just
well, well. And I don't know what the word normies. They won't even hear this stuff. They're not going to listen to KXM. They're not going to listen to freaking Sweet and Lynch. They're going to listen to the freaking radio.
I know.
So they don't give a crap about the stuff that we're talking about right now. So, but yeah, I would love for KXM to go out and do some stuff, and I would love for Sweet and Lynch to go out and do some stuff. But who knows? It's not even sure. It's funky because like we're not creatives like that. So it's like, all right, let's go get in the studio and do some stuff. And then what?
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. My brain doesn't work that way, but it's all good.
Yeah. It's, and that's why I appreciate bands like this getting together and making this music because this is the stuff that that we grew up with, this style of music. And it's not just we're always hearing, which don't get me wrong as I say this, because I appreciate the stuff that Stryper's doing. But when I hear stuff like this as like a super band, if you want to call it a super band or whatever you want to call it, getting
Absolutely.
together collectively to do something different and having it sound just incredibly rock lyrics, beautiful lyrics. Michael's spot on with them as always with this. With I'm just appreciative that they they're not hiding their talent, that they're giving it to us to be able to enjoy what has been given to them, creativity, talent wise, everything like that. And it's in so many different avenues.
Yes, I totally agree. When I was listening to this morning, I was like, "Man," and we're doing a freaking Striper podcast, but when I was listening to this morning, well, before this morning, just listening to the difference of Mike's writing his vocals and his lyrics, which sound pretty solid as what he's always done and all that stuff. But then you got Lomenzo and Tichy and Lynch as the backing up, because Mike doesn't have a lot of responsibility on the guitar, which is different,
No, yeah, it is different for him.
and he's producing. So it's just there's a lot of different dynamics there, and so when I was listening to this, I was like, "Dang, George!" You can you can feel the George Lynch solo when he just all right, get out of the way and let me do my thing. And yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a different flavor, and I love it. So yeah, um, I don't know. It's but like you said, I do wish they would go do some shows.
On this album, what would you say your favorite track is on this album? If you had to take one away, like if this is the only song you could ever listen to again, which one would you say?
My word,
It's hard. For me, it's easy because I just love this one song and it's not to take away from any other songs, but I just wanted to see what you would say.
can I guess what yours would be?
Yeah, you can guess.
I would guess it's gonna be bad. Heart of Fire.
No, that's it's not it. Sorry to disappoint you.
No, no worries. My I have a couple on here because Promised Land is a freaking banger.
Yeah.
So, if I were to pick one, that would probably be either that or Afterlife.
Afterlife has just got such a great and cool groove to
It's
it.
got a
It
clean,
just
cool groove.
it
Yeah,
goes it just
yeah.
goes into I just love that song, and that song they did a lyric video for, I believe. Maybe it's not a lyric video, but there is a video out there for Afterlife. But if I
I
was
just
gonna take one if I was gonna take one, it's the one that we talked about right off at the top when we were talking about this. I just love the song "Walk." I just love the groove to it. Even you said it's got an Aerosmith vibe to it when I did some research on it, that's what some other people were saying. It's kind of got a Aerosmith groove to it. It's just I just love any kind of like how I've said before. If you've got harmonies in the song, like a cappella stuff, I love that. For me, I love songs that change the vibe or change the 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 flow in it, like the way Walk does. And it's but there's so many other songs I like on this because I like Afterlife, I like Promised Land, I like Heart of Fire, Unify, Tried and True. For me, as I listen to this album, I'm not skipping any. I listen to this thing. This is what this album does for me when I listen to it. I listen to this and I go from front to back, not skipping a song, and then I go, I want more. I want more of this album. I want to hear more of this. And to me, if I leave an album wanting more, then that album ranks at the top of the list for me in what I do. And that's what this is what this album does for me. I want more. Maybe I want when I say I want more, I want more new material. I want to see them live. I want more. I want to experience the music with Sweet and Lynch and Lomenzo and Tichy. I just want to experience it with them.
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we're dealing with a super group here, so it would be nice for them to, like, maybe go on the road and do something, but there's so many of these bands. I mean, George Lynch is in KXM, Doc, and this band, and it's like we're probably never gonna see any of them on the road, which really sucks.
I know,
So
and it does. And this is something because sometimes it amazes me. Like I read a post, and this is just funny. David Lee Roth just announced a tour, and
what?
yeah, he just announced a tour. Like I don't know how many cities it is, but Katie Kiley, who has been an icon here in rock and roll DJ kind of stuff. She made this post about David Lee Roth and basically said, I'm so glad he's not coming to Atlanta because I would feel obligated to go and he's not performing like he used to. But for me, I'm not going to get in my car and go drive to go see David Lee Roth based upon some of the videos I've seen on him. But if they were ever to tour and for whatever reason they didn't come through Atlanta, but they were in Florida, they were in the Carolinas, they were within driving distance, I'm hopping in the car to go see these guys.
Yeah, but Eddie's dead.
No, no, I meant Sweet and Lynch.
Okay, okay,
I would
sorry.
hop in the car to go see them.
I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about David Lee Roth. Okay. Yeah, yeah, of course. I would love to go see Sweet and Lynch somewhere, but yeah, and Lynch is in LA and Mike's in Boston. Whatever. If it were to come together, that would be great. I don't know. A lot of these super group things that I see are just I know they're never gonna be on stage somewhere where I can go buy a ticket and go see them.
I keep my hope. I'm an
No,
optimist. They will
I
do it one day.
oh, well, KXM is one for me because it's freaking George Lynch, Doug Pennick, and the dude from Korn. I can't remember Ray Legier, and I would oh my gosh, I would love to see those guys live. But there's just like some
Yeah,
of these super group things, they just don't happen, and that sucks.
yeah, I know. And I know we're getting close to being 2 hours in, and I could keep talking about this, but what would you say your final kind of thoughts are on this particular album?
I can definitely give you some final thoughts. The rhythm section on this record, yeah,
Yeah, just like the
Lomenzo
first
and
album?
Tichy, holy crap. There's some insane bass playing going on this record, and Tichy is always Tichy, so, yeah, that's, my final thoughts would be, yes, the rhythm section is just so badass,
Yeah,
but
it's oh, go ahead.
no, but I've always been a fan, and I didn't realize that, Stryper toured with White Lion back in the day.
Yeah, yep.
So, but yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
because that was I remember when I saw them, I was hoping that White Lion would have been opening for him, and go read the Honestly book if you haven't read it before, and I think you have, but just if for our listeners, if you haven't listened to the Honestly book or read the Honestly book by Michael Sweet, go listen to it because it's kinda comical listening to the antics that were going on with White Lion and Stryper, and there's a story, I don't wanna give it away, but they're sitting in their dressing room or one day, and Mike Tramp walks in and says something and leaves, and they all kind of look, "Well, that was kind of weird." But it's just interesting what Mike Tramp said. So if you haven't read the book, go read it because it has some interesting. It's not long in the book, but he does spotlight their time with White Lion, and so yeah, and that's probably how him and Lomenzo got to know each other. So if I was going to give my final thoughts, it would be this: like you is one of the things that you and I have talked about is when Michael Sweet does something and then he does the next album, he's always raising the bar. He always wants to do better. And as much as I liked the first Sweet and Lynch album, this one exceeded the first album for me.
I think so too. For me, the rhythm section is the highlight of this record, but that's how my brain works. It's lyrically strong, and you got freaking George Lynch playing guitar, and just there's a lot of stuff going on here. So, yeah, if you're a hard rock metal fan, I don't know what parts of this you wouldn't like. So, when I'm listening to Titchy and Lomenzo as a rhythm section, I'm just like, "Well, alright, cool, I'm good." And George Lynch, excuse me, George Lynch is almost like a secondary prize.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
When you think about it that way, because you're right, the rhythm section in this, that's to me what stands out, and that might be when you listen to that interview or you came back from you either listened to the interview where, "Hey, we're not doing another Sweet Lynch album unless it's Lomenzo and Tichy." It's that goes to show you what these 2 have done on the first 2 albums. Because on the 3rd album with Sweet Lynch, they weren't on it.
Well, if you look at Lomenzo and Tichy's resumes, I mean, they're both ridiculous. So
Yeah,
you want them on you want them to be in your studio. It is kinda silly because yeah, like I say, and go watch Hired Guns on Netflix because Titchy's on there, and he's played with freaking everybody.
Hired Guns?
Hired Guns.
Okay. I will do that. But if you have, so if after what I have said on today's show, you probably understand that I really like this album.
It's
And
really good, man. I mean, it's,
and if,
it it and there's a couple songs that could be maybe skippers, but then George Lynch pops in and says, "Hey, I got this," and then they're not skippers anymore.
see, that's probably the one spot that I would disagree with you on the album. So for me, I don't. There are some songs where I'm listening to them, and then George Lynch just adds more to the song for me. But Just in but in those certain songs that we talked about earlier, yeah, I wouldn't be skipping those, but I think it's probably the only place we disagree with on this album, but, you know, it's, hey, we're not gonna think exactly alike on everything, and that's okay, so,
Dude, we've only had one, like, same song on our list
yeah,
once,
I think it was last week, number 1.
so I think we're good, but yeah, yeah, it's cool because to me, this is a Striper podcast, but this record does not sound like a Striper record, of course,
Right.
and then you get to you get to feel and hang out with George Lynch doing his thing, and that's totally different from Mike and Oz. So
Yeah,
I love
I
it. I dig it.
yeah, same here, so if you haven't heard this album, go listen to it. If it's been a while since you've listened to the album, go listen to it. And don't go into it like Daryl just said. Don't go into it thinking, I want it to sound like Striper, because if you want it to sound like Striper, it's not going to sound like Striper. But if
Nope.
you really just go into this album with, I just want to listen to some new music, I want to listen to some people that I really enjoy listening to, you're gonna like this. You're gonna like this album. And for me, I love this album, and I just want to hear more from them. And I know eventually we'll get to the 3rd Sweet and Lynch album. We'll talk about that one. A little bit of a different lineup. So got George and Michael on it. George Michael. Okay. You got George and Michael on it. And once I said that, I went, I've never said it like that before. So that just popped into my head. But
Oh my god. I
But I know we're at 2 hours, and I know you said you had things to do today. I've got things to do today, and I'm gonna go spend a little bit of the time with the family, but I had a blast talking about everything we talked about today. We were kinda all over the board on some things, but I really enjoyed listening to this album and talking about it today.
Nah, totally. I mean, I was stoked getting in front of the camera and talking with you and doing all this stuff. But Yeah, it's just a different flavor. So I know all you guys that are listening to us for striper content or whatever, but this this whole sorry, this side project is it feels different. It's you're not going to get the solos that you get. You're not going to get you're going to get the mic vocals, of course, but you're not going to get the crazy solos. Well,
Right.
but you're going to get George Lynch solos, which are freaking awesome. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's just
that they are.
they are. It's crazy, but yeah, it's not Striper, but hey, Sweet and Lynch, you're not going to be disappointed. I don't
Yeah.
think.
Check it out if you haven't. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Give us some feedback, give us comments, and then also episode 20, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap
And we will see you guys next week right
next
here
week.
on To Hell with the Podcast. Have a great week. And thank you again for listening. And we'll see you then.
Love y'all.